Welcome to the first episode of Sports After Dark. I am David,
And I'm Kayla.
and we've done this before, but officially we're doing this for real this time. We are actually have working equipment that we feel comfortable on. Thank you to my friend who suggested StreamYard. We finally have something that works, so that's good news. So for those who don't know us, we actually want to start by talking about who we are and how we know each other, all that good stuff. I mean, we've done this conversation before, but Caleb, we're gonna do the quick version, okay? You
Age
want
before beauty.
you want to start? Hold on, let me remove that.
Nope.
Let's,
Age before beauty.
there you go. Oh, age before we go first.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's get the banners and stuff together. Here you go. Um, so as you guys can see, me and Caleb used to work at the same station in Baltimore. Like, it's been like three months now, close to that. Who's counting, right? Um, but we still work together. Kayla came to us probably you came in the fall, right? Correct me if I'm
No, I'm coming up on a year. I came last June,
wrong.
middle of June.
Oh my God, it's been a year already.
Just about. Come
Jeez.
on, Rays.
So look, this cool woman walked in the WBAL, worked the night shift. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go introduce myself. Be polite. We got the chance to talk to each other. We realized, oh wow, she likes sports. She's a Miami Dolphin fan, but we'll get to that a little later. But she had interest in she's just a very excellent conversationalist. I really enjoyed talking to her. She was very fun. So we really hit it off. And then from that point in, it just became every time I come into work, I gotta go stop by the desk to talk to Kayla.
And
So
pray to my Dolphins football.
we did pray because it was a tough season last season. But we just really hit it off. And when you meet somebody who's really cool and dope, those friendships never die. And we said, hey, we should start a podcast. And so here we are. That's my version. What about you?
So yeah, I came in, I felt like I had a million responsibilities and a lot of things to remember when I first started through the first couple months. But the one thing that I really liked about David is when I was trying to juggle all of that, he was like, yeah, like if you can check on ABC, that would be great, but no worries, no rush, just like send me a list. If you get it, if you don't, just let me know that you didn't do it. And so that took a lot of pressure off of me, whether he realized it or not. Would still try to get everything that he needed, but he understood that I was at least trying, and that I think having grace with somebody or just like respecting that everybody has a lot of job tasks, I immediately like was drawn to, because I was like, okay, like he does trust me, but I don't have to have all the answers for him immediately, which was really nice. And it did really help me adjust into when I needed to have certain things for my shift done by, and it really like paved the way for my training and finishing up training. So I did like how much, David would just come up, even if he saw me typing away on my 3 screens and trying to figure out everything I had to do for the day. But he always wanted to talk sports, and it was kind of like a nice comeback to reality with all of the random crazy stories that Baltimore had going on. I could take 10 minutes and just be like, okay.
You really could. I mean, my gosh, there's never a dull day working in Baltimore. Oh my
No,
gosh. It's hard to believe you've been there for a year. Wow.
no.
How's it feel? It feels like the time's like flew by, right? Had to.
Yes and no. I think there were definitely times where it felt like the shift would never end, or it was just one thing after another. I'll never forget, when a giant fire to a lumber yard came and we were on breaking news for 2.5 hours, or
Oh
we
yeah.
had 5 separate shootings in a night.
Yep.
When I clocked in before I clocked out, and there are definitely nights like that. But then there are some nights where, the Dolphins football that we would pray to, we could throw around the newsroom and just have good conversation. So.
You
Um,
know,
I think it feels good. I feel like I have a better grasp even, before 2025 started, on the job, and like I'm getting better at different things. And I do feel like I feel valued by a workplace, and sometimes that is hard to find. So I'm excited to, continue on and see what comes after I get this raise in a few days on June
yep.
12th.
Congratulations on the raise. We hope that you definitely get that raise. Well deserved, especially when you work the desk. You got to answer crazy phone calls, like all the above. You mentioned that we talked about Dolphin football. First off, I'm not a Dolphin fan, but my co-host is a Dolphin fan.
Mhm.
I'm a Steeler fan, so that doesn't really work out when you work in Baltimore because it's all about the Ravens in Baltimore. So of course, we have to kind of talk about that, quietly. But we were all like, rooting for the Ravens unless they played our teams, right?
Right.
The new season, new schedule has officially came out, right? And there are a whole lot of international games this year. I know I kind of feel a way. I think I have to have two versions of the way I think of my schedule, right, with the Steelers, because okay, it looks differently if we sign Aaron Rodgers, and then it looks differently if we stick with what we currently have in house. So, which is Mason Rudolph, right? He could be our starting quarterback. Obviously, you guys have a quarterback, but there's a lot of question marks for you guys. So, in looking at the schedule, Kayla, how did you feel about your team, and what do you think about what do you think about this year's schedule? What do you how you feel about it?
Yeah, so starting with the Dolphins, I thought it was kind of unique that we played somebody from the AFC South right off the bat. In theory, we should be able to handle the Colts pretty well and go into week two when we start our division games already. In week two, we are going to be at home against New England instead of on the road in Foxborough because the NFL, again, screwed up, the scheduling, the revenue they could make by having people who live in Massachusetts be able to take a vacation down to Florida in early January. But then, right after that, it's not like we get out of the division. We get to see Buffalo for the first time, and we'll be on Thursday Night Football. So that brings back
You
horrors
put them
from
on Thursday night football?
week three.
That's
Yep.
insane work. That game
And
deserves to probably be a primetime slot. Go ahead.
And again, I prayed my whole life that God would put the Dolphins on primetime, and I am so tired of getting my ass handed to me on primetime with Buffalo.
Yeah.
And, PTSD, Tua took that other concussion week 2,
Mhm.
Thursday Night Football last year, so can't wait. But then we still don't get out of the division, and we play the Jets in week 4. So, there are some teams who don't even hit division games until the double-digit weeks, but we knock out half of them before week 5. So that was something that I definitely noticed that I thought was a little crazy. And then looking later on, I know you said, it's different depending on if Aaron Rodgers signs for Pittsburgh, but with the way it's like now, I'm eyeing weeks 13 through 15 because we have the Saints at home, which should be a win. We go to the Jets the first week of December, and then we have a Monday night game against the Steelers in week 15. And I like
Totally
we're
not talking to you that week. Nope, not
gonna go to the game. What do you mean? No, but
Live watch party?
and if we go, we should go.
Oh no,
Um,
yeah, no, we should absolutely go. But that's
that
gonna
would
be
be
so
fun. That would
cold.
be fun. It would
It's gonna
be,
be
but
cold up there, man. I mean, how you
it's
that's
for the experience. But the
yeah.
way that it looks now, I mean, I'm a little nervous of the Steelers' defense, but their offense doesn't scare me. Even with Aaron Rodgers, I'd like to see what he looks like in Week 15 if he's there. But right now, I think there's a stretch where late in the season, it's really important that we could possibly get 3 wins. If worst case scenario, 2 out of 3. And then we probably split the end of the season when we have Tampa Bay at home. Probably a loss, but I do think that we can win in New England the last week of the year, despite it being probably 10 degrees. But what
Yeah,
about
I think that you guys get all your wins early, man. I think that you guys start getting in trouble when it starts to get a little cold. But I do think this is a redemption year for Tua, right? Because it has to be, right? Because essentially, if it's not, then you got to put Mike on the hot seat. Tua, you start looking at the quarterback draft class for next year and saying, is our answer there, right?
yeah,
And saying you walk away from Tua because you guys invested a lot of money, but you start to at least look at another quarterback to bring in to say, okay, if this doesn't work out the following year, then halfway through, you guys will probably bench him and see what you got in the other guy. So this is a big year for you guys. I will say this for the Steelers. I look, I am. I don't know how to feel. Like we're in that awkward space where we've already punted on the season. We're ready. We are ready for the draft in Pittsburgh. That's what the moves have told me this offseason. We got rid of Pickens, and I understand why we did it, but I don't agree with it. I just feel like you know, we have been we're just like that scorned person that dates and we can never choose the right girl when it comes to wide receivers. Like we typically choose the problematics. We see the red flags, but it's like, oh no, but you have talent. But we can overlook the fact that you're a horrible, locker room presence. Or you beat people, you smoke weed, and we just get very problematic wide receivers. It's just a Steeler thing. And we just trade all this draft capital from the past draft to go get DK Metcalf with no quarterback. So long story short, that's what the Steelers are dealing with. It's okay. Everything's okay. I'm not expecting much this year. I really am not. I think we will be fortunate if we win 9 games. I think we are definitely on losing season alert for us because we have Mason Rudolph and we just have a whole lot of question marks. I think it will look good early for us because typically, traditionally, the Steelers start great weeks 1 through 4. You have a great defense. I think that they win the draft and got the needs they needed. You start out the season with a revenge game, right? If Aaron Rodgers plays that game, it's big. I mean, the NFL was like, well, we didn't choose it because Aaron Rodgers might potentially or may not be coming to you guys. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, you did.
We know. He's going to sign like in the next couple of weeks, and then you're like, oh yeah. So we have quarterback swaps for week 1: Justin Fields versus Aaron Rodgers. He comes back to New York, and that's going to be the big thing. So I think we have the opportunity to start 3-1. I do think that the the Vikings game in Dublin is going to be one of those games where I'm going to be upset that week. I think the Patriots, we never do traditions, say we never do well against the Patriots for some reason. They just, no matter if they suck or not, like Tom Brady isn't even there anymore. We still find a way to lose. So I expect like a 3-2 there. The division is going to be tough this year. I'm not going to lie. I think the Browns, we should be on paper because I think they have a lot to sort out their quarterback situation. And I love Shador to death, but that's a tall task to have him come into a very physical division and tell him, hey, you got to go win 10 games. See, I think if the kid can get you 7 or 8 wins, that's a good year for the Browns, but they have a lot of question marks on their side of the ball. Then I think this is the Ravens Bengals year. Unfortunately, I think the Ravens are going to be really, really good again. And I think the Bengals, if they can get the defense to be like average, they'll be a threat. So we'll see what happens. That's the division talk. Of course, we have the Packers. I don't see that going well for us. The Colts is 50-50. Chargers, I don't see it. We got to go to LA, by the way, for that. We go to the Bears this year. So that could, I mean, that's a toss-up game. The Bills were getting murdered. The Ravens, we might split with them because somehow Mike Tomlin pulls out a pride game in Pittsburgh. He's like, oh, we'll find a way to sweep one of those out. And then we play the Lions on Thanksgiving this year, which is pretty interesting. And I don't see that going well for us. So we have a lot of ups and downs this year. Our bye week is in week 5, and I'll get to that in a second, which is crazy. That's crazy work by the NFL. But actually, even segues me into the next point. Like, would you rather have a early bye or a late bye? So this year, we get the earliest bye I think we've had in like over a decade. We get a week 5 bye. And this is after we played the Vikings in Dublin. I don't know how I feel about that because, like, after that, it's 12 straight weeks of football, which is pretty brutal. We know that, especially because we play in the cold and it's not fun. And I'm not the person who puts on the pads, but I can only imagine you get hit multiple times and without hey, I get another break in a couple weeks. It's kind of frustrating. Typically, those teams that go have the early bye, they have injury issues later on because it's just a lot of football to play. Now, we did watch the Ravens this past year do it for 12 weeks and have a bye in week 12. So that poses the question, would you prefer a week 5 bye or would you like a week 12 bye? Which is better?
This is a really hard question because for the longest time in my life, the Dolphins had really early buys. Never got to double digits, it felt like. And it wasn't until 2 seasons ago that they got a week 14 bye. That was the latest that I think they've ever had it. We were competitive that year. I want to say that it was 2023, and had we won one of the last 2 games, we would have won the division. We wouldn't have been in Kansas City in negative godforsaken weather. But I did see, a regrouping after that. But the thing is, like, say you get hit with injuries early, or you start 1-3 or 0-4. Like, statistically, those teams don't make the playoffs. They don't make runs. But if you get a reset in week 5, I think it's only beneficial if you are struggling like that. But say the opposite happens. You go 3-1. You go 4-0. You don't want the momentum to stop. So I think later is better. I don't know if I would want week 12. I mean, that's what the Dolphins have this year, and
Mhm.
again, it comes after international game when they play the Commanders. Um,
I play that game
and
late this year
and
too.
there are some teams that opt to not have the bye after they go international. So like there's something to be said for that. But I think the NFL is really trying to make the product good in the sense that if they do send you international, they try to give you that bye just so that like the competitiveness stays at its peak. But I think unless you're 0 and 4 or 1 and 3,
Mhm.
that early bye doesn't do you any good. I think having it later on, you can go, okay, once we get here, we can regroup, we can figure out how to make a push at the end, and I think that's really where the benefit comes.
Long story short, I think the best time to have a bye is between week 7 and 9 because it's like you're a good portion through the season and you kind of know what you are after week 7. It's like, okay, we're going to fight for a wild card spot. Okay,
Mhm.
we're fighting for the division. Okay, we stink. We're waiting for next year's draft to see what happens. So you know by week 7, week 8, where you kind of fall into the 2025 season totem pole, who's going where.